I want to share some thoughts on what the internet is calling main character syndrome, which we used to call center of the universe syndrome about 20 years ago. This last December, I was in Vienna for part of my Christmas vacation and had an encounter that very well illustrates this particular principle and problem in our society. Leaving the old downtown, there's a place where Philharmonikstrasse and Kärntnerstrasse come together, at a place where Kärntnerstrasse transfers from a street for cars into a pedestrian-only zone. At that particular place, there's a very narrow street and a short crosswalk with an apparently very short light that is one of the what we call constraints and the pinch points. That's what I was looking for, of getting out of the old town, right by the old opera house. And for some reason, there's a road that goes all the way around the opera house, so there's always a lot of traffic there. It's probably a leftover from the horse and buggy times to have a road all the way around it. But there were a lot of people accumulated as we got close to this intersection that were building up, and I wasn't really sure what was going on. Up to this point, since I've lived in Vienna before, even though I didn't live in this part of Vienna, I speak German fluently. I don't look German. I don't look Austrian, but because I'm not with a bunch of people, I'm not talking loudly, I speak German, and I'm not carrying anything that's obvious that I'm not, I don't belong there. I don't think anybody has any idea that I'm a tourist. So I get close to the throng, and I'm able to push my way through the crowd close enough to see what's going on. And there are two Americans, based on their accent, standing in the middle of the road trying to do, I guess, a video or photos at least for an Instagram reel. And they're two Americans who are of American and Asian descent of some sort, who are impeding the flow of foot traffic and the flow of car traffic on this intersection, which is causing them the bottleneck of people. So a couple of turns of the light went by, cars were honking, because what would happen is she would go out into the intersection, and it's only about 4 or 5 meters across. And because she was there, no one would go out there, and then she would do her photos or video or whatever she would do. Cars would honk, people would try and cross, and she would get cross with them because they're interfering with her shot. And I have somewhere to go. I'm really tired. I got up that morning and left Poland on the train at about 9:30 a.m. So I've been up for about 12 hours. I'm walking everywhere at this point because Vienna's not that big. And I'm going to buy a day pass, but they're only good for 24 hours, so I'm going to buy it in the morning so that I can use it for that full day, because I think they're for calendar days, so I didn't want to buy one and then only be able to use it for the evening. So I've just walked from where I'm staying down to the downtown, because I wanted to see St. Stephen's Cathedral at night during Christmas time and have it be kind of part of the experience of being in Vienna, since I'd never been down there at night before. So eventually I got tired of waiting, because I'm an American and that's what we do. And I called her out on it. And I stepped down in the intersection when the light turned and when the walk sign appeared. And she confronted me and I said, "You have no business blocking traffic and you're not that pretty anyway." And I think it was at this point that the people in the crowd realized I'm an American, because some of them started clapping for me. Austrians are fairly polite. They will mostly just ignore you, at least in public, and then talk about their experiences in a forum like this, either with strangers or with people at home. But she was impeding my progress. She was impeding wherever they needed to go, and she was making Americans look bad. I've been on plenty of vacations, and even when I lived in Austria, there were times when I was praying and hoping that Americans would not recognize that I was one of them, because I was trying to blend in and not be recognized. Because a lot of our behavior is incredibly rude, incredibly selfish, and self-centered. We have this narcissistic tendency out there that people matter more than they think they matter more than they do. And they act as if everyone else belongs in orbit around them, and if we should plan our whole lives, our whole days, our whole behavior, our whole attitude around what befits them the best. They're the star of the show, and you're just planets and moons in orbit around them. And I don't know where this came from. It seemed like it was not as common when I was young. I mean, it happened, but it was usually people who actually were the most attractive who would do this, and not people who, because their followers tell them that they are, believed it without any actual kind of evidence and support. So this woman, I know attraction is subjective, and I'm not super attractive, but there was nothing about her that made me want to take a second look. I was tired of having to watch her in the intersection for several changes of the light and watch the Austrians get impeded and other tourists like myself because she wanted to take a picture there. And I'm really not even sure why there. There are better places in Vienna that I would have taken pictures if that was what I was trying to achieve, or if that's what I was trying to get for followers and for clout. And I don't go on vacation so I can advertise it. I don't like people knowing where I've been until I've been there, and I certainly don't put it up all over the internet to go, hey, look at all these cool places I've been, because I'm doing it for me to expand myself, to be a better person, to understand people better, to understand history better, to understand geography better, to practice the languages that I speak by visiting those countries. And because I know people in Vienna, and I would visit them the next day. So I was there for a totally different reason, and I felt like her attitude and her behavior were an impediment that needs to be overcome. And I'm guessing no one ever disciplined her or told her no, and probably no one's ever told her before that she's not that pretty anyway. It's probably, I don't know if it's probably not one of my better moments, but it was obvious from the reaction of other people in the crowd that they were happy that someone finally stepped up and said something, because she was very pouty afterwards, and I'm sure went right back to doing it. But for those of us in the moment who were impeded by her, we were able to move on with our day. So I have 2 points in sharing this. Number one, when you go somewhere else, remember that you're a guest and that you have no right and no respect if you impede on the enjoyment of others. And number two, an awareness of what's around you and where you fit into the picture is important. Unless you really are the star of the show, acting like the star of the show, it's just going to make you incredibly unpopular for everyone else. I don't know what it is about the rising generation that has to put everything on the internet, or that has to pretend like everything they do is memorable, remarkable, and praiseworthy, but it's not true. I hate being on camera. I hate photos of me. This doesn't appeal to me at all. And I also find that people who do that are not people I get along with, because there is a time for everything. And the time for glamour and the appropriate audience for glamour are the people who know you intimately and care about you. So family, and the person you decide to create a family with, those are the people for whom you should be looking your best. Or Christ, if you think he cares. I mean, I do wear a suit to church, and I look good in a suit. I look better in a suit than I do in this shirt, but it's not about peacocking. That's not my thing. I have no desire to do that. I just feel like if I'm not distracting people's attention, then I'm appropriately clad for the event and the occasion. So as we go out there, there are attitudes that are an impediment to the progress of mankind. And if you're a literal impediment, it's even worse than that. So anyway, when you travel, be aware. Actually, when you go interact with anyone, be aware, because this is what causes accidents, it's what causes conflicts, and it's what causes enmity, vanity, pride, and thinking that you are more important than you are. Not that humans aren't worth something, not that the soul is not precious in the sight of God. It's just that if you're not that pretty, stop pretending that you are. Anyway, Godspeed and take good care of yourselves.